takes a lot to make it in sport. It takes even more to make it in motorsport. And Formula One is the pinnacle. More men have been into space than have won a Formula One race. So what are the chances of making it all the way to the top? Guts, talent, flair, luck.
Above all else these days, you have to have money to back you.
It's going to take all of that if one of these young drivers is going to be Britain's next F1 star. In this programme, we hear from a young driver with plenty of talent.
I want to get to Formula One. That's where the glamour is. That's where I want to be.
Whenever Dean jumps in, he's just like super quick.
Cracking start then from Dean Smith, the youngster from Wolverhampton.
Dean Smith was winner of the British Formula Renault Championship in 2009.
Dean Smith is the champion.
He has a reputation as someone that's hugely determined, has had ups and downs in his life.
But now well into his 20s, he needs to make the next step up the ladder to Formula One.
Just keep learning, learn from everyone, do the best and keep pushing myself. I'll get there. I've been working for Mum and Dad's shop for around about 8 years now. I do like working with Mum and Dad.
We've done retail for 23 years, so we know more the retail side.
They concentrate in-store, whereas I concentrate more online in the e-commerce side of the business. Balancing work and racing can be quite difficult. You'll be coming back at 11, 12 o'clock almost every night, and working on weekends, for me it's a 7-day-a-week job. The last sort of 18 months, 2 years, it's got a lot easier. The problem we had before was whenever I went racing, nothing got done. So now I've got other people around me, it's a lot easier and I can concentrate and focus more on my racing.
He is the driving force behind it now. He puts his heart and soul into that.
Dean Smith may be a budding businessman, but his first love has always been motorsport.
His granddad says, come on, let's go karting, indoor karting. And he went, but he couldn't reach the pedals. He couldn't go in a kart because he wasn't tall enough.
And I had to stand up against this wall and just see if I was tall enough. And the people there was like, no, you're not tall enough at the moment, you've got to give it a couple more months.
His granddad used to take him there every weekend and he just watched the karts go round until one day they said, go on, Dean, you can have a go in a kart. You just about could touch the pedals then.
That day just changed my life, totally.
He just loved it. He just took to it like a duck to water.
I think my granddad probably beat me that first day, but I picked it up quite quickly.
One day I think he just said to his granddad, I'd love to do outdoor karting. I remember him going out the first day on the track, outdoor track, and everybody was just whizzing past him.
First couple of races, I got lapped, so it took a little bit to get used to.
I just thought, he's rubbish. He's not, it just didn't seem to click, but he loved it. We saw all these guys doing the tyres and changing the sprockets and doing all this, and we thought, well, what they're messing around with the tyres for? We just thought you press the button and it just goes. So really, Dean had to struggle at first because we didn't know anything. We just let him go out, and even when it was raining, we used to let him go out on slicks. But saying that, because we didn't know and he was trying to compete, he seemed to push him further and further, and he just got better and better.
I started actually doing really well. I literally went from sort of the back of the grid to top 10, and all of a sudden then I started getting some podiums. And within no time, we're winning races.
His early success in karting landed him a scholarship from BMW that gave him £35,000 to start his single-seater career. Having won the Formula BMW title in his maiden season, he went on to compete in Formula Renault.
I ended up winning the championship. I dominated it in the end. No, I didn't have to do the last race. I missed the first 2 races. It was a good year, a fantastic year.
Like many young drivers, Dean is always on the lookout for new opportunities, and networking can be as important as talent.
I find the Autosport show very exciting, especially for a lot of people that are not necessarily involved in motorsport. They can really understand about the car, the drivers, what it takes to become a racing driver. I've come here to talk to a couple of teams and talk about trying to progress in my career. How's everything? Yeah?
It's all right, it's all right. Yeah? Well, I need your number anyway.
Yeah?
Or drop me an email.
Towards the end of the day, we do our charity karting event, which is obviously always a good cause for ourselves. The spirit here is definitely alive in karting. We're allowed to sort of touch one another a little bit more aggressively, so it's all good fun. When we're out there racing and go-karting and everything that I've ever done in racing, you get into such a focus that in one sense you don't have to think about anything, you naturally do it, you know where to brake, you know where to turn, and you just repeat what you do every single lap, and you know if you're a tenth up, 2 tenths up without even looking at the lap time. You just know naturally that you're faster on that lap. It's 2 hours racing, and every driver loves to just be in a race seat really. Just driving as fast as we can. But it's still all about the charity.
Dean Smith, like all up-and-coming racers, needs to exploit any contacts he can to try to glean nuggets of advice.
When you were young, did you dream about racing in Formula 1 one day?
Yeah, I think it's always been the dream. When you see the likes of the battles, when I was growing up with Mansell, Senna, the likes of that, it just gives you inspiration, you know, to be part of that one day, and that's what's driven me and my family to put the commitment in to make me become a Formula 1 driver.
What's the best piece of advice you were given as a young driver?
Best piece of advice I got, I suppose, was never to give up, and it was probably off my cousin Dario Franchitti. I've grown up in a motorsport family, which has been great, and equally it's strived me on to become a Formula 1 driver. When you see the success that he's had in Indy racing, you know, it was part of my family to obviously carry that through, and equally today we're still very close and very supportive of each other's careers.
How much aggression do you think is appropriate?
As much as you need to put in. They're opposition, and at the end of the day, whether you're a teammate, whether you're your friend, you have to understand why you're there racing, and it's only to win. If it was a decision, friendship or winning, I know what choice I would rather make.
Is karting important?
I think karting's obviously one of the most important times of your career. I think it teaches you racecraft, puts you in high pressure environments, and builds you over the years as you're developing into a teenager. From there, I think something like Formula Renault is the same route I went. Equally then, to carry on into the likes of GP3, World Series by Renault, GP2. But all these series obviously carry a big budget, and there's a lot of talent around. But you know, that's what I think picks you up from the teams. The manufacturers can then see what your abilities are, and hopefully, you know, building upon that, you get into the young driver Formula 1 tests, which are about now, and gives people the opportunity to show what they can do with their skills to becoming a Formula 1 driver in the future.
A racer of great potential throughout his teens, in 2009, Dean was awarded the prestigious McLaren Autosport BRDC award.
He was a McLaren young driver 2 or 3 years ago, so you know, we tend to keep an eye on those in a romantic way. We try and help them. We're involved with quite a lot of them. Formula 1 hasn't been very good at development. McLaren's done rather more than most Formula 1 team, or any Formula 1 team. But it's, you know, and we're proud of, you know, the young driver program, the McLaren Autosport young driver program that's been running over 20 years. You know, from David Coulthard as its first winner, and you know, I was there when he won it. Every British driver except Lewis, who we kept out of the championship, has reached Formula 1, has reached IndyCar racing, has won that along the way. So it's clearly been a good yardstick to measure that talent.
All the Formula 1 drivers, everyone's there in Formula 1 who you want to try and talk to. We was just enjoying the night, trying not to be too nervous. And then when they called my name, I just remember chairs going everywhere, everyone screaming. I felt numb because I just couldn't believe it, just felt like a dream. Went all the way up to the stage, got presented for the awards and everything, and had to do a speech to everyone. And then straight after that, met Jenson, Button, Lewis, handshakes, pictures, then got introduced to so many people, like Christian Horner and everything. It was just great. That night really changed everything in my career. We'd struggled all the way up to then, and I knew winning this award and having all these connections that doors have got to open. I'll definitely go at least be racing in a series higher than what I'm in now, and hopefully with a really good team.
Dean Smith is our McLaren Autosport BRDC Young Driver of the Year.
He has the speed and the track record. But will Dean Smith be Britain's next F1 star? Dean Smith, Formula Renault champion, McLaren Autosport BRDC award winner, and a racer of great promise, is now also a family man.
Me and Laura met at school.
It wasn't until we started doing A-levels and we picked the same subjects that we started talking.
We started chatting and started getting really close, and it went from there, really.
Compared to other lads in school, they was just typical teenagers who just went out on a night. Whereas with Dean, I was always going to different events and meeting new people through the karting.
I proposed on the beach. It was sunset, and yeah, one knee, done everything. I thought, you know, it's the right time for us to get engaged.
Dean and Laura got married in October 2011.
Nerves aren't too bad. In racing, I was only ever nervous at the beginning, but today the only part that I reckon I'm going to be nervous is when I'm at the table doing my speech, I would have thought.
Dean James Anthony, will you take Laura Jane to be your wife? I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Dean, you may kiss the bride.
It was a really nice autumn day. The weather couldn't have been any better, and all our friends and family were there.
It's definitely the best day of my life.
It's a tough task trying to balance family life with racing, and the two inevitably come together.
Motorsport's definitely influenced the names of our children. Our first son is Oliver Lewis, and our 10-week-old is named Jenson.
I definitely think that you can be a family man and be a racing driver.
His racing is a massive part of our life. It's not just Dean that's doing the racing. I almost feel like it's all of us.
We started making a holiday of each one, really. So we was literally going to every single weekend. Whole family would come in.
It's just to stay at home. It's quite a long time staying at home, and I'd much rather be there with him because we are close and family people. Whenever
I was at the track, she knew that I had to spend all my time dedicated to my racing. But then I got into a routine to make sure that everything was done. I was happy with everything before I left the track, and as soon as I left the track, the last few hours and a couple of hours the next day, I'd spend with my family.
In 2010, Dean made the breakthrough into GP3 with top team Carlin.
With the money that I won on the Autosport Award, we literally put in everything that we had into that, and with some of the sponsors as well, it come alive, and I had the whole year secured when budgets are so high. It was a good season. We had our ups and downs. I come 7th overall and still the top British driver, which was really good. But just as the year went on, the development got a little bit slow and we fell behind towards the end of the season.
With Dean in his GP3 campaign, we were doing lots of circuit preparation. You hear like the Valencia Street Circuit, for example. He's a great lad, super quick driver.
At the end of Carlin, there was an 8-month period where I didn't go in anything. There was no car, nothing that I'd been in, no testing. And literally, it was a couple of days before the race weekend in Turkey. The team called Addicts rang up and said, Dean, get your helmet on, you're coming to Turkey just to race for this weekend. How are we gonna know? It was a free drive. I mean, we didn't have the money to do anything anyway, and at that point I wasn't sure where my career was going to go.
Despite a promising start to his second season, this time with Addax, and following his best weekend on home soil, things went wrong for Dean mid-season.
I remember being at Silverstone. I was only round about 6-7 points off the lead of the championship. Already had several podiums. Addax rang up and said, you've had a free drive all year, we're having big problems, the team's finishing for GP3, and I lost my engineer. Instead of 2 mechanics, I had 1. And a lot had changed. I mean, there was a change with the Pirelli, and all of a sudden we'd gone from being at the front consistently, in qualifying being 1 or 2 tenths off, but we had a real strong race car. It was always the quickest race car overall, to literally being 5 seconds off a lap. And the team was scratching their heads. Obviously I had no engineer, and it was a whole team. The whole team had just fell. We just collapsed. If I would have won that championship, I would have definitely got into GP2. I'm pretty sure of it.
Motor racing has always been a rich man's sport from the moment it ever began.
Every year, always had problems with budgets.
We tried to help and support him, but it's not been easy. You know, it's not been, we haven't been handed it on a plate. We've had to work for everything.
For Mum and Dad, there was just no more budget from the Formula Renault days. Like literally the first year of Formula Renault, that was it.
We are still trying to support him, but obviously with the climate and the way things are, it's really difficult and it's really hard.
I remember him saying, you know, we can't race, there's no way. We've put every little bit in, and, you know, we're getting good deals, we're getting sponsors, but we're still just nowhere near the budget that we need to find. We've had to cut down on things, you know, no holidays, nothing. It's just been whatever we've got, we've tried to support him as much as we can. Dean, to me, has done everything he could possibly do. He won a scholarship at 15, he's won Formula Renault, he's won Formula BMW, he won the McLaren Autosport Award, Young Driver of the Year. He's won all those categories and he's still not sponsored.
Finding sponsors in motor racing is obviously very difficult. You have to offer the sponsor something and what they can benefit from it. It's something I've struggled through my career to raise the budgets fully to get the best seats available, but fortunately we managed to scrape by with the family support and make it happen.
Ultimately, to get into F1, if that's your dream, you're going to have to buy your way in. Talent alone won't get you there.
A lot of Formula 1 teams are required to take pay drivers, which is nothing to do with talent or little to do with talent, to make up their budgets, because it's very tough for a lot of Formula 1 teams at the moment.
Pay drivers have always been in Formula 1 and they always will be. I mean, Nicky Lauda, for example, you know, one of the greatest world champions we've ever had, came in on a life insurance policy which he'd sold. That was his collateral for going motor racing.
Even if you're not generally that talented, as long as you've got the money, you can still get there.
There is a bit of a saying that the drivers with the talent have no money, and the drivers with the money have no talent. And whether that's true or not, I don't know. But there are, you know, I've met a lot of drivers that are incredibly talented, but they're just backstreet kids.
This season has been a big disappointment. I haven't done any racing. Every year for the last sort of 4 years, it's been right down to the wire. Literally the last week, you normally get the phone call and, you know, get your helmet on, you go in, that's it, all done. The first round passed and we just knew then that that was going to be it.
There are, of course, and always have been drivers who have been exceptionally talented and have never got beyond the baseline.
I'm just trying to get back into the seat all the time, trying to phone, trying to get sponsors to be able to just pay, to even do, you know, a couple of weekends. But it's just so difficult.
I think you've just got to consider the funnel and do the mathematics. You know, if you look over the last 20 years and average the number of new entrant Formula 1 drivers, I suspect we average about 3 to 4 per year maximum entering. So that's the neck of the funnel. Now broaden that out to all of the categories of karting around the world, you know, around Europe, around Asia, around America, South America, and realise that there are tens of thousands going in each year, and only 3 to 4 arriving at the neck of the funnel. And then you realise then, however what you want to cut and dice it, however good you think you are, that's the stats, and you've just got to face up to it, and that's the reality. That's how competitive it is.
I think it's important to realise there are other championships that are just as good, just as hard, probably sometimes more competitive. So you just have to change your dreams, not give up on them.
When you go through the dark days, the days when you don't win a race for a long time, when you feel like maybe this is all not going in the right direction, it's not worth it, that every driver suffers at some point in their career. I just wish I had known that it will all come good eventually. But in saying that, maybe that stops you working quite as hard. And I didn't come from a background where I had it all. And I think sometimes that's important as well, because it makes you fight harder when you're actually in the car.
Everybody's journey is different. You just need to keep pushing your way through. I had some tough times on the way up, but fortunately I got to the position I'm in now. You know, it's not always the same for everybody. I think there's almost an element of luck. But I would say, you know, while you're still on 2 feet, while you're young, you have to keep pushing and believing in yourself, because your ability will always get you somewhere in life.
Dean is definitely, I think, a very skillful, natural, talented driver.
He has a reputation as someone that's hugely determined, has had ups and downs in his life, and is widely recognised as being a pretty determined young guy. My impression is that he's someone that's a real trier. And I would like to see someone like that do well.
Dean has definitely got it, 100%. We would not have supported him this far if we didn't think he'd got that in him.
I'm not cross, I just feel disheartened that, you know, when I went into motorsport, I loved motorsport. We didn't think of the negatives about motorsport, but as you've gone on, it's all about money and connections, and I feel that I've got the connections, I can open the doors. But money is sort of more of a priority than anything, you know, and on the scale you would say that money's first, connection's second, and talent's third, where really, as we all know, talent should be number one.